Our minute will start in 10 seconds. We can't coordinate the whole village. That's not possible. Okay? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
On New Year's Day, Trevor finds the time to leave Phuket town to inspect the damage at one of his favourite places, the hotel where he stayed on his first visit to Thailand. There's not much left.
There's a shop, reception, the desk, everything gone. Smell of death around here. For sure, somebody died in there. Just no, that smell too well. Very much a family. It's aimed at package families, package tour families. This place would be full of kids. I know it. And the pool would be where most of those kids were. And look, I mean, that stuff's not been put in there since. That stuff was thrown in there. A lot of the children that died were actually in swimming pools. And just, I don't know how that works, but that's one thing we heard a lot from patients that we had. All these things that meant something to somebody just was worthless. Irony's here again. It's a medical bag. What use that would be? School book. Jasmine Fisher Meyer, Class 3C. I hope she made it. You'll see what could have happened there. What could have happened to me there. And I'm not being self-pitying, I'm just talking rubbish.
They organise a New Year memorial service at the hospital.
But now I'm found. But now I see.
Trevor Fisher will now come and give a eulogy.
We have been the witnesses and victims of one of the worst natural catastrophes that mankind has suffered. We are changed forever and our innocence is lost. We must not feel guilty as we re-engage in the trivia of daily life, for we have the chance to do so. Those we have lost do not. Out of respect for them, we should all, regardless of which faith we hold, resolve to define the rest of our lives by exhibiting the limitless generosity of spirit, love and compassion that we found residing in all of us this week. We also owe them a promise this day to make the rest of our lives a beautiful and noble example to all.
It wasn't the end. There was work to do.
It's our son.
How old?
29.
So, you come and see me upstairs. You read this again. It'll help. All right. Thank you. Thanks.
The earthquake and the tsunami it unleashed created one of the worst natural disasters of the past 100 years. It wiped out thousands of communities. It caused pain that might one day be manageable, but will never go away. The fact that there's only nature to blame doesn't make it any easier to bear. Now the people who are dragged into this catastrophe have to pick up their lives again. They have to rebuild villages that will be smaller and emptier, pay interest on loans for boats and buildings and businesses that are smashed, and grow up and do it all without the people they need most. Phuket is a rich island. It's going to clean up, rebuild, and start pulling in tourists again. The foreigners who've been involved in all of this at least have the chance of getting well away from the disaster zone. But think for a moment about the millions of people who barely scraped a living before the tsunami in poor communities where tourists never go, who now have lost their homes, their jobs, and people they loved. Recreating some kind of decent life for them is going to be the biggest challenge of all.
Choice. We're still alive, and how we do it is, if anyone judges it, fairly worthless people, you know. And that record, the Eric Clapton, you know, Tears in Heaven, I've always hated hearing it, you know, because I know it's been played at so many funerals for children and blah blah blah. I hate it, but at a time like this, you understand you can't judge that. It's how people find comfort. So, that's the currency of disaster for the survivors is comfort. That's what you need to be giving out.
This is a huge natural disaster. Around the Indian Ocean, at the time that we're recording this, more than 140,000 people have been confirmed dead, and 5 million people have lost their homes. Tonight in a Real Story special, we're on the island of Phuket in Thailand. It's one of Asia's biggest beach resorts, and it's suffered badly. We've been following not just the survivors, the injured and the bereaved, but also volunteers, British people who found themselves caught up in this catastrophe, who decided to help out. When it's midwinter in Europe, who wouldn't want to be on Phuket? Stunning scenery, warm sea, and beaches that seemed as safe as Spain.
Global catastrophe,
which engulfed people from around the world. Chia Mashida is one individual. There are thousands of missing people, and this place has been set up right in the middle of Phuket to try to get their friends and their families some answers about what happened to them. Now, a lot of people arrived here hoping that their missing person would somehow be found alive, but as time's gone by, it's become a search for bodies. Now, however logical that sounds, it's hard to accept if you're involved in the search for someone you love. Who can blame somebody who still wants a miracle? More and more searchers arrived on Phuket with pictures of the missing and desperate appeals for help. Now, what makes these notice boards even more poignant and almost unbearable to look at is the fact that the people in the pictures look so happy. These are photos that were taken at celebrations, at birthdays, at weddings, at parties, on holidays. I saw notice boards like this in New York after the attacks of 9/11, and after people started realizing that everybody in the pictures was dead, they became, in their own way, not appeals for information, but memorials about what had happened. Phuket is a rich island. It's going to clean up, rebuild, and start pulling in tourists again. The foreigners who've been involved in all of this at least have the chance of getting well away from the disaster zone. But think for a moment about the millions of people who barely scraped a living before the tsunami in poor communities where tourists never go, who now have lost their homes, their jobs, and people they loved. Recreating some kind of decent life for them is going to be the biggest challenge of all.